get started with our discussion for the outsiders, the last chapters. Yeah. So here in this picture, Ponyboy is holding a book. It's holding a yearbook, and then inside the yearbook it says Robert Sheldon. There's a picture of a young boy. So who is that boy in the yearbook, everybody? That is Bob, who's killed accidentally by Johnny. So Ponyboy realizes that Bob Sheldon was an enemy to him. It was only one-sided picture of him. Actually, he was a multi-dimensional character, lovable boy at home and friendly man in his friend's gang. So he had a lot more depth to it rather than just a single enemy. Yeah, so it's really sad there is a wall between the two social groups so that they are not allowed to see each other in more depth. Okay. So let's go to the first discussion. So Derry and Ponyboy, they constantly fight against each other. Derry yells at Ponyboy, and then Ponyboy is really defensive, doesn't really share what's going on in his life with the older brother. Happens over and over. So Soda Pop finally breaks down, and then he starts crying. And he does a tearful plea to the two brothers saying that, hey, if you guys keep fighting, then you're gonna be thrown into a state worse than dead. 죽는 것보다 안 좋은 그런 상태가 될 거야. And what does he mean by that? Well, let's talk about Dallas Winston for a second. So Dallas Winston, on the surface, he got shot by the police, but it was more of a suicide because he intentionally stole from a store, and then he intentionally let the policeman chase him, and then he just went out there, let the policeman shoot at him. Why? It was almost like a suicide because he lost the purpose of life. He lost the meaning of life after Johnny was gone. So Dallas thought that my life without Johnny, it's worse than dead. Being alive is worse than dead. Why don't I, end my life here? So Soda Pop is warning these brothers that, hey, we don't want to live a life that is worse than death. And then life that is worse than death is probably a life that is empty, that is meaningless. There's nothing in your life worth protecting. So their relationship is going to grow apart, and their family is going to break apart. They're going to be isolated from each other, and the family ties don't exist any longer. Then that life is going to be worse than death. So Soda Pop is warning these boys against that possibility. So these two boys are finally realizing what Soda Pop is trying to say. Yeah, and in Ponyboy's eyes, he finally sees Derry, not the strong, yelling, strict Derry, but Derry only 20 years old, just a kid, very weak and vulnerable, but trying to act tough. He finally realizes how much Derry is sacrificing himself to support and protect this family. So Soda Pop basically is reminding these boys that family is the last lifeline. If the family breaks apart here and now at this moment, then the life will be worthless. It's gonna be worth less than. It's gonna be meaningless, worse than death. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the second part of the discussion. Yeah, the structure of the novel is really interesting. So in the beginning of the novel, it starts with this phrase, walked out of the theater and then gonna get a ride with Paul Newman or something like that. So chapter 1 and chapter 12 starts and then ends in an exactly same way. This ending is very fresh, and then it strikes the readers with the possibility that the author of the novel could be who, everybody? Ponyboy. The readers, they're struck by the possibility, oh my god, this novel is written by Pony Boy. Yeah. And then at that moment, we realizes that, oh, this is not just a fiction. This is not just a fake story. This actually comes from a real world, and then it's based on a very real and vivid world that the author lived in. And that is probably, related with the personal background story of the author, S.C. Hinton. She is S.C. Hinton. And then you guys are gonna be really amazed if you hear at what age she wrote this novel. She wrote this novel at age 16. Yeah. Yeah. And then she published the novel at age 18. And she was a youth from a broken home. Her father passed away early. Her father was a salesman. Her mother was a factory worker. And she didn't really get a lot of attention at home. And at her own high school, there was a very clear social divide between the working class youth and then more privileged youth. And the intention of writing this novel was to provide a voice for the struggling youth. And then actually, she herself is Pony Boy. Pony Boy is S.E. Hinton, and S.E. Hinton is Pony Boy. And then when we learn about the personal background story of the author, it's very beautiful. It comes as a very beautiful realization that this girl, she was a struggling youth, but she was not trapped inside her misery. But a beautiful, creative voice was born inside her misery, and she became an adult. She became a mature author, and she was giving that healing voice to the youth of any generation, any time. So her hopeful voice resonated with the youth of the 60s, when it was first printed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. 2000, even at the moment, even right now, the youth that are living in this generation. So this book is like a classic novel that all the American high school students and then middle school students read. And so far, 15 billion copies of the book have been sold. 1,500만 부가 팔렸어요. So it's really wonderful that someone who grew up in poverty and someone who grew up in such struggles could, transform the pain into creativity, transform the sorrow into a hopeful voice for the future younger generation. So it's a timeless piece, and no wonder the beginning of the novel and then the ending of the novel were the same to convey this message. You guys can become the author of your own struggles. You guys can become the author of your own pains when you finally overcome the struggles, and you can become a hope for the people, to the younger generation who has had the same struggles as you did. Yeah, so this is a hopeful message that the author wants to get across. Okay, so let's talk about this for 30 seconds. 다 해볼 거예요, 여러분. So let's all practice together 30 seconds, and then we're gonna start by 채연이. Okay. 자, 그러면은 worse than dead의 의미와 그리고 1챕터, 2챕터가 똑같은 이유에 대해서 이야기를 한번 해보도록 하겠는데요. 그렇죠. 1번에서 그냥 자유롭게 1번하고 2번 원하는 거 하세요. 자, 해보도록 하겠습니다. Okay, practice. Ready, set, start. Oh yeah. So Soda Pop was telling the other two brothers that if you keep fighting like this, then we're gonna end up in a state that is worse than dead. And Soda Pop wanted to remind the brothers that all they have in this entire world is each other, and they have to stick with each other if they really wanted to have any kind of meaning and purpose in this life. If they ever lose their family, they're gonna be left with nothing, no meaning in life at all. Oh, okay.